Muy buenos días, bienvenidos a todos los que se están conectando. Mi nombre es Carolina Leguizamón, yo hago parte del programa de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales de Colfuturo y hoy estamos con Nicole Dewart, quien es coordinadora del programa de estudiantes patrocinados de University of Alberta. University of Alberta tenemos un convenio que otorga a los beneficiarios de Colfuturo admitidos en alguno de los programas de posgrado denominados Thesis-Based o orientados a la investigación, la suma correspondiente a la diferencia de matrícula para estudiantes internacionales en relación a la matrícula de estudiantes nacionales. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? La universidad tiene un tuition fee para estudiantes nacionales, que es más bajo, y un tuition fee para estudiantes internacionales, que es más alto. Entonces, en el caso de los programas que cubre este convenio, las personas que sean beneficiarias van a poder pagar como si fueran estudiantes nacionales. Es importante tener en cuenta que el apoyo se dará siempre y cuando el estudiante haya solicitado a Colfuturo más de $15,000 estadounidenses para manutención por año. Para quienes no conocen el programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo o quisieran más información, tenemos 2 charlas informativas cada mes. El primer viernes de cada mes a las 8 de la mañana y el segundo sábado de cada mes a las 9:30 se pueden conectar por la página web de Colfuturo. Y adicionalmente, también para contarles que durante el mes de agosto vamos a estar teniendo todos los días, de lunes a viernes, una sesión informativa con diferentes universidades invitadas a contarnos un poco de su oferta académica. So Nicole, thank you so much again for accepting this invitation. It's a pleasure to have you here. And well, you can start the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carolina. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Appreciate you coming and spending some time to learn about the University of Alberta. What I'll do today is kind of just touch on some highlights about the university, not really get too much into the academic programs, but talk more about how to prepare for an application and kind of requirements that you need to think about. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Just 1 second, please. Oops. Okay. So first of all, like for those of you who aren't very familiar with where the University of Alberta is, we are located in the city of Edmonton, which is the capital city of the province of Alberta. So we're more on the western side of Canada. I know on the map here, it kind of looks like we are close to the city of Vancouver, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. But don't let the map deceive you. This is typically a 12-hour drive from Edmonton to Vancouver because you go through the Rocky Mountains, which kind of separate our provinces. But it's about an hour-and-a-half flight between our two cities. So the next biggest, closest city to us is actually the city of Calgary, which is only just a 3-hour drive south of Edmonton. So a bit about Edmonton. So like I said, we're the capital city of the province. So we have about 1 million people approximately. But we are one of the youngest and fastest growing cities in Canada. We are a major economic hub, not only in the province, but in the country, because our province is kind of the big energy producer in Canada. We have a clean, safe environment here in Edmonton. So you can see here in the photo, the river valley kind of runs through the center of the city. The University of Alberta campus is kind of right on the edge of this river valley. So you have from main campus access to lots of trails for cycling, hiking, jogging, even, you can access ski hills in the winter in the river valley. We have a lower cost of living here in Edmonton, especially when compared to other major cities in Canada like Toronto and Vancouver. You'll find Edmonton is very affordable. And I'll also note that Edmonton, outside of these pandemic times, we are considered to be the festival city of Canada. So, it doesn't matter what time of the year, what season, there's always lots of different events and festivals going on. Now, a little bit about the province of Alberta. So the province has a population of about 4 million people. As I said, we are considered Canada's top energy producer. We have beautiful natural environments. So as you can see here in the photo of the Rocky Mountains, which is about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive from Edmonton. So it's a great place to escape any time of the year. And Alberta is home to 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So lots of really incredible places to visit in this province. Now, a little bit about the University of Alberta. So we are considered the number 4 research-based university in Canada. So we're consistently among the top 5 in the country, but we also have many specializations that are ranked very high in the world. So I've noted some of the ones in the top 10 in the world. So things like forestry, petroleum engineering, geology, sports-related fields, transplantation, and paleontology. These are just some of the top 10, but we have many more within the top 50 and top 100 in the world. So especially things like earth sciences, nursing, education, chemical engineering. You'll find a lot of great research specializations here. So the University of Alberta is home to over 40,000 students who come from 156 different countries. Now, of those 40,000 students, approximately 7,000 are international students. But when looking at just the graduate student population, so master's and PhD students, 40% of those students are international students. So you'll be studying with students and professors from all over the world. Another point I just want to highlight is our graduate employment rate. So we are ranked number 2 in Canada for graduate employment. And what this means is that employers here in Canada view graduates from the University of Alberta as valuable and well prepared for employment in their field. So our Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research does an excellent job of preparing students for transitioning to the workplace after graduation. Now, this is a list of our faculties that do offer master's and PhD programs. You will see we're a very comprehensive university. We have everything from science, engineering, medicine, but also looking at things like arts, humanities, education, business, law. So it's quite comprehensive. We don't have enough time to kind of cover any of the academic programming, but what I would do is encourage you to check out our website, so ualberta.ca/admissions-programs, and you'll find a great search function so you can put in your research area and see which departments here on campus would be the best fit for what you want to study. So before we, so in terms of world-class facilities, we have the National Institute for Nanotechnology and the Nanofab Center. So this is, funded not only by the University of Alberta, but the governments of Alberta and Canada. It's a, very reputable facility for students and researchers from across the country who are focused on nanotechnology. We have the Centennial Center for interdisciplinary science. So this is a very new center on campus, kind of state-of-the-art facility for students in areas like physics and earth science, biology, and disciplines like that. Our Edmonton Clinic Health Academy, also a very recent addition to our main campus. So this houses our nursing and pharmacy programs. We also have Canada's second largest library collection, technologically advanced classrooms. We have a teaching hospital here on main campus and over 400 different research labs. And like I said, we are very strong in the STEM areas, but we do very well in the arts as well. And you'll see the photo here of the facility, the Tim Centre for the Arts, which is Canada's best theatre training facility. Now, in terms of housing on campus, there are many different options. You have guaranteed on-campus housing if you apply before April 30th of the year that you want to start your program. There are housing options specific to graduate students. So if you want to live with another master's or PhD student, you can share a residence like an apartment suite, or you can choose if you want to pay a little extra and have your own suite. That's possible as well. There's a variety of options available. Some come furnished, some are unfurnished. It kind of really varies depending on your budget. There are meal plans available as well if that interests you. So you can just pay in advance and use your meal plan at any of the cafeterias or restaurants across campus. Now, in terms of services and supports on campus, so we have the Student Success Center, which is an excellent resource that I always refer students to. They offer workshops on things like how to write a thesis proposal or how to conduct a literature review, or perhaps you're preparing for a conference where you're going to be presenting your research. They'll kind of prepare you for that. So it's an excellent resource for students, as well as the Center for Writers. This is a free service. It connects you with volunteer kind of tutors in your area of studies, and they can kind of do a quick review of a piece of writing that you may have done, but maybe you're not sure about, you're not sure of the expectations, or if you're meeting the kind of expectations for the University of Alberta. So someone can kind of help you review your writing and make sure it's ready to submit. We also have a lot of health supports on campus, like accessibility services. We have a health center on campus, so you can see a doctor or a multiple different medical specialists. We have a pharmacy on campus, and all graduate students are automatically enrolled in our university health and dental insurance plan. So you don't have to worry about not being covered for various things. We also have counseling services for all students, recreation facilities. So with your student ID card, you'll have access to a number of swimming pools, fitness equipment, our brand new climbing wall. And we actually have two campuses here in Edmonton with recreation facilities. So you'll have access to all of those, as well as a discount on various recreation courses. And there are over 450 different student groups. So no matter what your hobby or interest might be, there's a very good chance that you will find other students who have similar interests as you here. And our International Student Services Office, which is where I'm based out of, they have specialized advisors for international students. They can advise you on things like immigration questions, anything that might be coming up for you. Personally, they can advise on. They offer English conversation clubs. And they plan a variety of different events and activities for international students throughout the year. Now, in terms of working while studying, our Career Center on campus has multiple locations and some within faculties. So they kind of specialize in your area. So they can kind of connect you with potential job opportunities or prepare you to apply for jobs. Students, international students with a study permit to study in Canada are allowed to work on or off campus up to 20 hours per week. So if you do want to earn some extra income, that is an option for you. Many graduate students choose to work as a research or teaching assistant within their department, most often with their supervising professor. So this is a great opportunity to get some work experience kind of in the academic field. And all graduate students are required to complete a professional development program. So throughout your degree, you will work on this kind of requirement. You'll create your own kind of career development plan. And then we offer a variety of workshops and conferences for you to attend to kind of help you get to your professional development goal. So before we continue on to kind of academic requirements and application procedures, I just want to share this testimonial.
My name is Paula and I'm from Colombia. I'm currently in my second year of my doctoral degree at the University of Alberta, and I'm doing a PhD in rehabilitation science. The University of Alberta is globally recognized for the significant contributions in research in physical therapy, so I decided to come to this university. And during my placement, I was able to acquire different skills and practical knowledge. I really like how the University of Alberta cares about the students. There are activities and very fun activities throughout the year. The students are friendly and very welcoming. And I love how the campus, like the modern facilities the campus has, and also the big campus the university has. I would say it's a very important event. That was my convocation. First of all, it was like one of my dreams come true, and second, it was a beautiful ceremony that I will never forget, for sure. So I have 3 tips for anyone. The first one is always come with an open mind and participate in many activities the university offers. For example, intramural sports, there are trips to the mountains, there are conversational clubs, among many other activities that are available for students. Second, I will say participate in academic activities, always to strengthen your communication skills and to build some networks, like professional networks that will help you in the future. And third, I will say just enjoy and make the most of each opportunity and have fun at the university.
Okay, so now just touching on the academic stuff. So in terms of the types of degrees that we offer, our master's degrees come in 2 different types. So there are course-based masters, which is exactly that. You're mainly just doing coursework throughout your program, and then you do a final project at the end. So a course-based master's typically takes anywhere between 1 to 2 years, depending on what specialization you're doing. But I would say on average, 1 to 1.5 years. And those master's programs are typically a little bit more expensive than the thesis-based masters. So a thesis-based master's, you still do some coursework, not as much. You just do some courses at the start of your program to kind of help you prepare for your upcoming research. And so that's where, your master's will kind of progress to the research and writing your thesis. So a thesis-based master's here takes on average 2 to 3 years is typically the time frame. For our master's degrees, you typically need to have a bachelor degree in that area of specialization for entry. Our doctoral degrees are very similar kind of structure to the thesis-based masters, where you do some coursework at the start to kind of help you prepare for your research, and then you'll conduct some of your preparation, research, candidacy exam, and work towards your final thesis. So a PhD at the University of Alberta is anywhere between 4 to 6 years. It kind of depends on how your research progresses. Normally, you do need a master's degree in that area of specialization for entry into a doctoral program. There are some cases where students are able to directly go into it from a bachelor degree if you have very high grades and some research experience in your bachelor degree program. Now, in terms of admission requirements, we typically need to see a minimum GPA of 3 out of 4 or 70% during your last 2 years of your full-time studies. So what this means is in your bachelor degree, if you had a rough first year, it didn't go well, that's okay. We're not going to look at your first 2 years. We're only going to look at your grades in your last 2 years. And for English, we typically want to see an IELTS 6.5 or a TOEFL 90. I know right now a lot of testing centers are closed due to COVID, so we are also accepting the Duolingo exam. It's the online exam, and we need a score of 115. Now, these are just the very minimum standards, but you will find that some departments do ask for higher requirements. So for example, our program in dentistry asks for an IELTS 7.5, or an economics program might ask for a GPA of 3.3. So it's important to do your research on the program, the very specific program that you want to do, to make sure you meet their requirements. Now, typical required documents, CV, your university transcripts and degree certificates. So we'll want to see both the original language and an official English translation. English test score, a statement of research interest, which I will touch on very soon. We need to see 3 references. For a thesis-based or research-based master's or PhD program, you do need to have confirmation from a professor here at the university saying that they will supervise you. And some departments have additional requirements like a GMAT or GRE score. So for example, if you want to do an MBA or a PhD in business, this is a common requirement. Now, how to find a supervisor if you are wanting to do a research-based program. I just recommend, do your research on the website to find out which professor is doing research mostly aligned with what you want to do. And then email that professor your CV, your transcripts, your English score, and a statement of research intent. And then just suggest, a potential time to meet to discuss you doing your master's or PhD under their supervision. Now, if you are going to be applying for Culfuturo funding, or you've already been approved for it, I can help you with that process. So feel free to reach out to me and I can kind of guide you through those steps. Now, tuition guarantee at the University of Alberta. So what this means is that at the start of your program, the tuition rate that is at the start will be the same for the following years. So for a thesis-based master's and PhD, right now it's at 10,700 Canadian dollars per year. Course-based masters, it's on average just over 13,000. It kind of depends on the number of courses you do. But for course-based masters, I will say our Masters of Engineering, MBA, and some other course-based masters do have much higher tuition rates. So it's important to check the website for the program you want to study. So I will touch a bit on the agreement we have with ColFuturo. So we are, University of Alberta and ColFuturo have been partners for a very long time. We've received a number of students with funding from ColFuturo. So our agreement with them is for students studying in thesis-based graduate programs. So for students in those programs with ColFuturo funding, we will charge the domestic tuition rate. So the same tuition rate we charge to Canadian students instead of the rates that we charge to international students. So it's a significant tuition discount for you. Now, this agreement doesn't apply to students in course-based master's programs, things like the MBA, Masters of Engineering, those types of things. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't use ColFuturo funding for those programs. You just will not qualify for the tuition discount. So like I said, if you intend to apply for ColFuturo funding and want to apply to the University of Alberta, be sure to email me at uaissp@ualberta.ca, and I'll leave that email at the end of the presentation as well. So a little bit about my program. So I work for the Sponsored Student Program, which is for international students who are financially sponsored by an organization in their home country. So I kind of assist ColFuturo applicants with assessing to make sure they meet the admission requirements, help find a supervising professor, guide you through the application process. And then if you are approved for both ColFuturo and admitted to the University of Alberta, I'll kind of help to arrange to make sure you get your tuition invoices to submit to ColFuturo and make sure that that payment process goes smoothly. So that is all I have for you today. So like I said, feel free to email me at uaissp@ualberta.ca. And otherwise, I will turn it over to Carolina and we can move to some of the questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Nicole, for the information. And we have received a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is from Jimmy. He's asking regarding the ColFuturo agreement if the $15,000 are for the tuition fee or for other expenses.
Yeah, good question. So that's part of the agreement, $15,000 US per year for living expenses. So because professors here at the university want to make sure that you're getting enough funding to kind of cover your expenses and not have to worry about not being able to pay rent or anything like that. So that is a minimum requirement. So if you are approved for ColFuturo funding, it's important to keep that in mind when setting up your budget.
All right, thank you. Ismael has two questions. The first one is, how much is the approximate tuition fee yearly applying the agreement with ColFuturo?
Yeah, so for a thesis-based master's and PhD right now, so this year I believe it's at approximately 6,200 Canadian dollars per year. And that includes all non-instructional fees as well. So things like your health and dental insurance, your transportation pass, kind of all of those extra fees as well.
Okay, thank you. And the second question from him is, can we start studying at any time of the year, such as winter, spring, and fall season?
Yeah, good question. So the vast majority of students do start in September. That's when you'll find most of new students arriving on campus. There's a lot of orientation activities in September. But if you can't start in September, we do have some students who start in January. It kind of depends on the program you want to study, because everyone is kind of a little bit different. So it's good to check the website of the department you want to apply to. I will note a January start. January is one of the coldest months of the year. So as long as you're prepared for that transition to the winter weather in Edmonton, that is a possibility. But yeah, September and January are typically the most common start dates for graduate students.
All right, and Vivian is asking, do the thesis-based programs have internship options?
Yeah, with our Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research, they have an internship program. So if you want to incorporate something like that into your program, that is a possibility. You can work with the Faculty of Graduate Studies to kind of identify a company or organization that you would like to do an internship with. But you have to coordinate with your supervising professor to make sure it's not going to take away too much of your time from your research, that you're able to kind of coordinate your schedule accordingly. But yes, it is a possibility.
Perfect. Ismael is asking, what is the language requirement for a master's degree in education?
In education. Again, it kind of really depends on, our Faculty of Education is huge and they have lots of different specializations. And unfortunately, each of them kind of ask for different requirements. So I can't say with certainty, but I know for Faculty of Education, it would be an absolute minimum IELTS 7.0. Again, like I said, some specializations a little bit higher, but be sure to check out the department website for what you specifically want to research in education.
And he has another question regarding the Colfuturo agreement. Do I first apply to Colfuturo, or do I apply directly with the university?
Yeah, so it can actually be either. I would say most of the applicants apply to Colfuturo first, because you don't have to have admission in order to be approved for funding from Colfuturo. So often I see Colfuturo applicants after they've been approved for the funding. But you can also do it vice versa. You're welcome to apply to the University of Alberta first. But if we are to admit you, there would probably be a condition on your admission letter that you need to be approved for the Colfuturo funding in the future. So it doesn't really matter either way, but you can kind of do what's best for you.
Yes, that's correct. I would also like to add that they are two different applications. So there's the application to the university and then the application to the Programa Crédito Beca of Colfuturo. And Hugo Zambrano is asking, what's the best way to begin the contact with the university and find a thesis supervisor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one thing I forgot, I noticed the slide was missing in my presentation, was about writing a statement of research intent. So this is a 1 to 2 page document where you will talk about why you want to work with that specific professor, what about their research interests you. So you have to do your research online about what that professor has been working on recently, so you can kind of be informed when writing to the professor. You can mention that you've read certain publications that they've done, you're familiar with their research projects, and talk about your background, how your academic background and your experiences would be a good match for that professor's research area, and why you think you would be a good fit for their research group. So yeah, like I said, this should all be incorporated into a 1 to 2 page document. so that when you email the professor, that's typically the thing that they look to the most. That's what they're going to assess, because not only does that tell them your ability to articulate what you want to do and what you hope to accomplish, but also they'll be able to see your writing style, your writing skills. So it's a really important document to focus on. So yeah, just emailing the professor with that and your transcripts, your CV. And, you know, I typically give professors about 2 weeks to respond. If you don't hear back, you can send them a little reminder. If you still don't hear back, don't take it personally. Sometimes professors are just very busy, or maybe they're not looking for new students, so they're not looking at those messages. But just, you know, if you're not hearing anything back, then you just move on to your second choice professor. And like I said, if you are planning to have Colfuturo funding, you can just send me an email and I can kind of help you with that process.
Thank you. There's a question from Jairo regarding the Colfuturo scholarship part, so I am going to answer. He's asking if it's necessary to return to Colombia in order to receive the scholarship for the living expenses amount that he got from Colfuturo. And the answer is yes. One of the requirements to receive the Colfuturo scholarship is to return to Colombia and to stay for a period of time of 3 years. The next question is from Luis Carlos. He says, I got 6 in the IELTS academic exam, but the base is 6.5. Is there a conditional admission in order to be accepted in the master?
Again, it kind of depends on which program. I would say the majority of programs do not do conditional admissions. They want to see that you meet that English requirement at the time you apply. But there are some specializations that are flexible, especially if you are wanting to do an English course at the University of Alberta to kind of meet that requirement. But there has to be a very good reason as to why they would need to give you a conditional admission. So unless you're trying to meet, you know, the Colfuturo deadline or something like that, but like I said, an admission letter isn't required for that. So I would recommend, like, the best option is likely to try and just improve your English first before getting ready to apply to the University of Alberta. But I will note that you can start the process of contacting professors, even though you don't meet the English score yet. You can get professors, you know, unofficial approval first, continue to work on your English, and then officially apply later.
Thank you. Marcela is asking, do you have scholarships for Latin American students besides Colfuturo's scholarship?
Yeah, so funding for graduate students, it's kind of issued by individual departments. So the funding amounts really vary depending on what you will be studying. So for example, in the STEM fields, funding amounts are typically a little bit higher than arts or humanities. There's not as much funding available there. I will also note that for course-based masters, there's not really any scholarships. If there are any, they're very small and it's quite competitive. But if you're wanting to do a research-based program and you can't get Colfuturo funding, if a professor views you as a competitive applicant and they really want to have you join their research group, they will likely make you a funding offer in that case. And so typically funding from departments is meant to help you cover the cost of tuition and maybe some of your living expenses.
And Hugo is asking, what's the admission rate for masters at the Faculty of Applied Science?
Again, it really varies. It's kind of, it's different across the board, you know, for our science departments, it's kind of, I would say on average, it's that standard admission rate that I had shown in the slide. So an average of 3 out of 4 with an IELTS of 6.5. I know our biological sciences department, they typically ask for a little bit higher. But I'd say most of the science departments are that minimum requirement in the slide.
Jairo is asking, is there a possibility of doing a joint doctorate between ELES and the CCSR?
I'm not sure what those acronyms are. I assume those are institutions, or?
I think the first one is a faculty, ALES, but I am not sure about
ALES,
CCSR.
Okay, so if the student wants to email me with the name of their home institution, I can check and see if there's an agreement in place. Joint kind of PhD programs have to have a formal agreement in place between the two institutions, which is something that if it's not in place already, those types of agreements typically take years to kind of develop and approve. So if it's not in place right now, then the answer is likely no. But yeah, if the student wants to email me, I can look to see if there's an agreement in place between our institutions.
Thank you. There's a question from Cielo Catalina. She says, I am interested in one of your masters, SLP, but I need 8 prerequisite subjects. My question is, do those 8 subjects count as part of the program? Do I have to take them out of the program beforehand? I'm really confused about that. Would I have to pay for those 8 subjects apart from the total tuition for the program?
So if it's a prerequisite, that means you have to have those subjects done before you apply to the program. So the reason they would ask for that is because they want to make sure you have a solid foundation in those areas before moving on to the master's courses. And so it doesn't have to be University of Alberta specific courses. Like if this student has done courses at their home university that are similar, they might meet those requirements. Like it doesn't have to be with our institution. They just want to make sure that the student has covered the topics in those types of courses so that they're going to be successful in the master's courses.
Thank you so much. Ismael is asking, what are the application dates for a master's degree?
So the online application opens on October 1st. That's for September 2022 admission. In terms of deadlines, again, it's very different depending on what program you want to study. So you have to check the website of the department you want to apply to. So for example, I know law, the deadline is in December. A lot of education programs are in January. Whereas a lot of the engineering programs, the deadlines aren't until April. Medicine typically has very late deadlines. So it really depends on what you want to study. So it's good just to check out the department specific website.
Thank you. Marcela has a question. How long does a master degree last? How many years does it last?
Yeah, so a course-based master's is typically around 1 to 1.5 years. If you want to do a thesis-based master's, the average is between 2 and 3 years. So the reason we can't give a firm kind of number is because, especially when you're doing a research-based master's, is it depends on how your research progresses. If everything goes according to your schedule, you know, sometimes things will come up that will cause delays with your research. So we kind of can only really give an average. So 2 to 3 years is typically the standard completion time.
Thank you. We received 2 questions regarding the same topic, so I'm going to ask both questions at the same time. Camilo is asking, is it mandatory to contact supervisor to apply to a Master of Science? And Vladimir asks, how can I contact a supervisor to apply to a Master of Science?
Yeah, so if you're wanting to do a thesis-based program, almost all of the departments here on campus do require that you find a supervising professor before you apply. So it is going to be a requirement because you'll need an email confirmation from the professor saying that they would supervise you if admitted. Now, how to do that? So if you go to the website of the department that you are interested in doing your research in, you'll find a list of all the faculty members on the website. So you can click through the profiles of all the professors to kind of read about their research and determine which one is the best match for what you want to do. All the professors' contact information will be on the website. So then for your first choice professor, you can send them an email, include your CV, your transcripts, your English score, if you have it, your statement of research intent, which I talked about a little bit earlier. And then just a short note to the professor saying, I've read about your research. I'm very interested in doing my master's or PhD under your supervision. Are you accepting new students right now? And if so, can we set up a time to video chat? And then just wait to see what kind of response you get from the professor. If they're interested, they will likely respond back and set up a video interview with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
William has a specific question. What are the options to study a master in civil engineering related with energy and environment?
Yeah, there's lots of options. You can do a course-based master's if you'd prefer. So a master's of engineering in one of those areas. So that's 1 to 1.5 years typically. Or you can do a research-based master's. So there's lots of faculty members in that field at the University of Alberta. Like I said, Alberta is huge in terms of the energy sector. And so also in opposition to that, there's lots of research in the environment sector at the university as well. So there's lots of faculty members. So you can just check out the department website to go through and read through the professors to see if there's someone doing research you're interested in.
Thank you. Lida has a specific case also. She says, I am a chemical engineer and I would like to do an MBA. And the question is, are undergraduate studies in administration required? And also, is this program covered by Colfuturo's agreement? And
yes.
Is it, the last question, sorry, is it necessary to have a tutor, a supervisor?
So good question. So for a course-based master's, like an MBA or Master's of Engineering, it's not required to find a supervising professor because you're not doing research, so you don't have to have someone supervising you. You're just doing courses. Now, in terms of the MBA, you don't need a bachelor degree in business administration. You can have a variety of different specializations to get into an MBA program. You do have to already have some work experience. I believe they look for a minimum of 2 years of work experience. We do have a dual degree program, so a Master's of Engineering with an MBA. So that's a bit longer than a standard MBA, but it kind of incorporates both Master's of Engineering courses and MBA courses. The issue is it doesn't, the MBA or Masters of Engineering do not fall under the Colfuturo agreement because they are considered course-based master's programs. So you will be charged the full international student tuition rate, which for an MBA this year, I think is approximately probably close to 60,000 Canadian dollars per year. So it's the most expensive program we have on campus. So unfortunately, you'll be charged that full tuition rate.
All right. And I would like to add that it's, as Nicole said, it's not by the Colfuturo agreement. However, you can still apply to Colfuturo scholarship, but you will not receive the benefits from the agreement. That's it.
Yes, and I will note, we have had a Colfuturo student in the past who completed his MBA here. So he got, the full funding from Colfuturo to help pay for most of his tuition, but then he had some of his own savings as well to help pay for any other remaining living expenses.
And Jairo just sent the information of what the acronyms stand for. And he says the first one is Agriculture, Life and Environment. And the second one is Canadian Center for Social Responsibility. Do you remember the question about the joint doctorate?
Yeah.
Program?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any programs, but I'll have to look into it. I don't have the list with me right now. So it would be helpful if he could just send me an email and then I can look into it and respond back to him directly.
Thank you. And the last question is from William. Is there age limit in order to apply?
No, there's no age limit at all. We've had students in their 60s and 70s complete degrees here. So yeah, there's no specific requirement.
All right. Well, thank you, Nicole. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much for your information. And bueno, me gustaría recordarles que esta sesión está siendo grabada y la vamos a enviar a sus correos en los próximos días por si de pronto no se pudieron conectar desde el inicio o hay alguna pregunta que ya se respondió al inicio. Bueno, pueden revisar la grabación, también están los datos de contacto de Nicole si tienen alguna pregunta. Y también me gustaría recordarles que durante el mes de agosto, todos los días a las 10 de la mañana, vamos a tener sesiones con diferentes universidades que tienen convenio con Colfuturo para que exploren la oferta académica y pues puedan llevar a cabo su proyecto de estudiar un posgrado, una maestría, un doctorado en el exterior con Colfuturo. So thank you, Nicole. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I hope to hear from some of you soon. Have a good day.
Goodbye.